Welcome back, everyone! Today, we're diving into a seriously chilling explainer. We're looking at a true story that has essentially morphed into this massive, terrifying urban legend. And honestly, the sequence of events we're about to unpack is so deeply unsettling, it's definitely going to make you think twice before ever wandering into the woods at night. We're breaking down the infamous Shimla school trip nightmare, step by step, straight from the source accounts. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and really focus in, because trust me, this one escalates incredibly fast. Okay, let's dive right into this. The big question we're trying to answer today is pretty straightforward, but the answer is anything but. How exactly did a totally normal, supervised school trip to Shimla spiral so violently out of control that it ended in a double tragedy? Like, what actually happens when innocent curiosity crashes headfirst into something completely unexplained? We're going to trace the exact footsteps these students took, examine the choices they made, and look at the horrifying forces they encountered to figure out exactly what went wrong that night. So the whole inciting incident here is actually completely mundane. Honestly, that's kind of what makes the ensuing horror hit so hard. Basically, the school bus carrying the students just breaks down late at night. The teachers do what any rational adult would do. They halt the trip and settle everybody into a nearby hotel to wait for a mechanic the next morning. But here's the catch. This wasn't some nice hotel in the middle of a bustling city. It was incredibly isolated, sandwiched right between these massive looming mountains and a seriously dense, pitch-black forest. Without even realizing it, the setting itself was already a trap. Now, enter our three friends, Ayu, Aman, and Rohan. They're sharing a room, and looking out their window, they spot a lake deep in the forest. And of course, being teenagers, this leads to a foolishly simple plan. Step 1, sneak out past the sleeping guard. Step 2, find the lake. Step 3, snap some photos. And Step 4, return as the undisputed most popular kids in school. They were actually trying to copy a stunt from a previous trip where two kids became absolute school legends. Picture it, right? Sneaking through dark hallways, it feels like a scene straight out of a classic, innocent coming-of-age movie. But as we're about to see, that innocence evaporates almost immediately. Notice how quickly this builds from an adventure into absolute pure panic. They leave the hotel right at midnight. From their window, the lake looked super close. But by 1 a.m., they're still trudging down this freezing, seemingly endless forest path. By 1:15 a.m., the bitter cold is really setting in, and they realize the worst possible thing: zero cell signal. They are completely and utterly isolated. Using just their phone flashlights, they finally decide to turn back. But then, at 1:30 a.m., Ayu and Aman turn around, and Rohan is just gone. No sound, no struggle. He just vanished into the pitch-black darkness.
Right away, full-blown panic sets in. Ayu and Aman suddenly hear the heavy thud of running footsteps nearby, and refusing to leave their best friend behind, they blindly plunge into the dense, silent woods, chasing those footsteps. Then, abruptly, the footsteps stop. For a few agonizing minutes, there's just total, suffocating silence. And then, they hear it. A deeply unsettling, rhythmic sound coming from the dark. It was the sound of someone digging in the dirt. They creep slowly toward the noise, hiding behind the bushes, and what they witness completely shatters all logic. It was Rohan. He was right there in the middle of the forest, furiously digging this massive grave-like pit in the dirt with his bare hands. Ayu and Aman, completely terrified, call out his name, and Rohan slowly turns around. The original account describes it like this. His eyes were pitch black, like someone had pulled them completely out. The teenage boy they knew was just gone, replaced by something furious, unnatural, and glaring directly at them. In mere seconds, the situation gets violently physical. Aman, trying to be brave, steps forward and just places a hand on Rohan's shoulder to ask what's wrong. The reaction is instantaneous. Rohan lets out this horrifying scream, shoves Aman with literal supernatural strength, and actually throws him violently through the air. Right after that, Rohan starts suffering from these bizarre, violent seizures down in the dirt before completely passing out. The sheer physical power radiating from whatever had taken hold of him was just overwhelming. So Ayu scrambles over to Aman's side, all while frantically trying to wake up the unconscious Rohan. Suddenly, Rohan's eyes snap wide open. He starts screaming at the top of his lungs, staring in absolute pure horror at Aman. Ayu turns around to look.
Aman, who had been sitting slumped over with his head down, slowly raises his face, and his eyes are now pitch black too. This dark force hadn't just taken over Rohan, it had literally infected Aman like a virus. Without a word, Aman bolts, sprinting away deep into the darkest part of the woods. Absolutely terrified, but desperate to save their friend, Ayu and Rohan take off after Aman's fleeting shadow, guided by nothing but their fading phone flashlights. This frantic chase leads them to what's known as the ruined house. It's this ancient, dilapidated, crumbling structure that looks like it hasn't been touched by a human being in decades. Every single survival instinct is screaming at them to run the other way, but knowing Aman is somewhere inside, they force themselves to step through that dark, forbidding doorway. Inside, they hear the sound of a strange, eerie voice murmuring in the darkness. They creep deeper into the ruins, following the sound, and what they see next literally defies the laws of physics. They find Aman, but he is entirely unconscious, and his body is just floating, suspended completely in midair. It's this shocking, surreal image that instantly cements a terrifying reality. They aren't just dealing with a prank or a wild animal. They are dealing with something far beyond the natural world. And Ajuman wasn't alone in that room. The entity that was murmuring to his floating body was this corrupted, horrifying vision of an old woman. We're talking a terrifying face with those same pitch-black void eyes, loose hanging skin, and messy wild white hair. She was speaking directly to the suspended boy, and the very second Ayu and Rohan lay eyes on her, she stops, and she locks her gaze right on them. At this exact moment, things cross the line from a nightmare into a fight for absolute survival. The boys turn around and bolt for the exit in a state of pure, unadulterated terror. As Ayu and Rohan scramble toward the door, they risk just one glance back over their shoulders. And the entity, she isn't walking after them. She is crawling down the stairs like an insect. I mean, it is such a visceral, deeply unnatural image, and it perfectly highlights exactly why these kids are fleeing for their lives back into the pitch-black forest. So they're running blindly through the woods, completely disoriented, when they suddenly burst out of the tree line and plunge straight into the freezing water. In the cruelest twist of irony imaginable, their desperate escape route led them directly into the very lake they originally set out to find. But as they hit the water, they realize something is very wrong. They aren't just swimming. An immense, invisible force wraps tightly around them, violently dragging them under the surface, actively trying to drown them in the dark. Ayu thrashes wildly in the water and somehow, miraculously manages to drag himself onto the muddy bank. But Rohan doesn't make it. Right in front of Ayu's eyes, Rohan is pulled under the black water for good. Ayu collapses on the shore, completely passing out from the shock of it all. When he finally opens his eyes, it's morning, and inexplicably, he's back in his hotel room. He runs outside and is met with a devastating scene. 2 lives lost. The police are swarming the hotel, and the bodies of both Rohan and Aman are lying on the ground, tightly wrapped in white sheets. Now, we really have to contrast the chilling divide in how this event was processed. On one side, you have the official police verdict. They declared the tragedy a double murder, a mundane, purely human crime. But on the flip side, the local belief points to something entirely different, a vengeful spirit. The locals who actually live near this forest know all too well that the official police report completely ignores the chilling supernatural reality of what really lurks in those woods. To really understand why the locals are so afraid, we have to look at the region's tragic folklore. Years ago, an old woman lived a peaceful, quiet life by herself in a house right in that exact forest. But greedy villagers from a nearby town wanted her land. So they attacked her, violently murdered her, and callously dumped her body into that very same lake. Ever since that day, no local will ever step foot near the lake or the woods after dark. They know her corrupted, angry spirit still wanders the ruins in the water, relentlessly seeking revenge against anyone who dares to trespass. Which brings us to our final lingering thought. Think about it. If those 3 boys had just known the bloody history of the land, Ayu wouldn't be the only one alive today. But their innocent midnight dare woke up something that had been patiently waiting in the dark. So is her vengeful spirit still wandering near that lake today? Well, the locals certainly think so. And after tracing the exact terrifying steps of Ayu, Aman, and Rohan, you really have to wonder what else is waiting in the pitch black of the Shimla forest. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, and please stay safe.